Thank you for joining Pick Recap. Today I'm going to explain in 2013 American fantasy adventure film called Jack the Giant Slayer. As the movie begins, a kid named Jack arrives on the scene. His father was a farmer. Jack especially loved hearing stories about barons and kings. He was inspired by the story of a king. This is the story of the time when a king ruled a country. During the reign of that king, some priests prepared beans which were not ordinary. They were particularly magical beans. The purpose behind making these seeds was to face the Lord flying in the heavens. He sowed the seeds which grew into a tall tree. That huge tree was touching the sky. And the priests were thinking that his path was leading to heaven. Going to the top of the tree, he came to know that there is another world between earth and heaven. This is a dangerous place where monsters live longer than humans. Those giants soon realized they were humans when they were confronted to get there. Finding a way to the earth, they descend on it. He came to earth and ruined everything. Even if he started eating humans by killing them. Seeing this destruction, the king's knights put an end to one of the giants. Afterwards, the clergy cast him out by sorcery on his heart. And he made a magical crown out of that heart. The most surprising thing is that when the king went in front of the demons wearing that crown, then those demons knelt in front of the king. And being in possession of that crown, they accepted him as their king. Then the king ordered the demons to return to his kingdom. Then the king cut down the tree after all those demons had gone. And the king saved the seeds of that tree forever. And those seeds and crowns were buried in the coffin at the time of that king's death. And this story was liked by Jack as well as the princess. Being part of Jack's lineage, the princess's mother used to tell him this story. 10 years later, Jack is shown what was now grown up. And he is going to a city to sell his horse. Arriving in that city, he saw that the same king's drama was going on, whose stories were told to him in his childhood. And he also enters to see the play. There is also a girl who was a princess. Being in disguise, she is unrecognizable by anyone as a princess. Then some people start teasing the princess. Jack comes forward to defend the princess and a boy punches her in the face. Everyone bows down when Jack threatens. Jack thinks they were terrified, but he knows that they were there with the princess after returning. And this was the reason for him to kneel down, and the princess supported him. Then Roderick appears, with whom the princess's father was willing to marry his daughter. But he did not like the princess and she was not ready to marry him. Roderick looks at his study room where everything is scattered. He finds out what's wrong here. And he gets a crown and a pot of a plant, and that was made a year ago from the giant's heart. But there was one thing missing from the book. Roderick orders his courtiers to block the entire city and find the priest out of nowhere. A pastor comes to Jack when he is in town to sell his horse. He says, "I want to buy your horse." "There has to be an amount for this," says Jack. And the pastor didn't have a penny. The pastor gives Jack some beans and tells something about the father. "After giving these beans to him you will get your payment." Jack says who gives prize money in place of beans. The pastor replies, "These are not ordinary beans, but magical. By being mighty, they can bring change in the whole world. They are also rare, so never lose it at any cost. Above all, never submerge it in water." And the pastor goes, buys Jack's horse. He went ahead and was caught. Jack's uncle is furious at Jack as he returns home. "What is this? You bring beans instead of horses. That pastor has betrayed you." And he throws those beans down in a rage. Jack starts collecting those beans on the ground, but one of them is knocked down through a hole in the wood. It goes unnoticed by Jack. It was raining outside. And the princess was passing by because she was not ready to marry Roderick. So she left her house. The princess takes shelter in that wooden house to escape the rain. Jack knows she is a princess, so the two start talking to each other. Suddenly rainwater enters the bean passing through that hole in the wood, which was lying on the ground. The priest had said that it should not touch the water. By dipping it in water, that bean starts growing there. The roots of that beanstalk were under the house, so it moves up the house as it grows. And the princess got stuck there. Despite her protection by Jack, the princess is turned upside down with the growing tree. The next morning, the king's father arrives. He sees a tallest tree which is touching the sky. Its end cannot be imagined. Jack reveals the full story. The king arranges things and says, "Go and save my daughter." Roderick says, "I will even go to save my future wife because I love her." Jack also wanted to go with them, so they went with him. While climbing the tree, Roderick intentionally cut the rope. Because of this, some knights fall down and die. And they reach their planned place, which was between heaven and earth. Roderick tells Jack to get over there. "I know you have those magic beans. Give it to me." Roderick grabs the threatening beans with a knife. But Jack keeps a bean with him. Each group of 3 members goes individually and starts the search for the princess. There was danger to life everywhere. A giant appears in front of Jack's group. He leaves, capturing both of Jack's companions. Jack goes after it, because he wanted to find the princess by any means. He knew that the princess would hide where the demon was going. Roderick is then shown with his companions. Roderick pushes one of them down because he was not his partner. Then a giant appears in front of them. And it kills Roderick's partner in front of him. Now it's about to kill Roderick. But Roderick comes with a magical crown. It was the same Taj that was made 1,000 years ago from the heart of the giant. The king had made it, which also had a mantra. It is obvious that the demons will obey the person who will have this crown. So wearing that crown, Roderick reaches the place where the crowd of demons was present. One of his companions was accompanied by a princess, who was caught by a demon and brought here. All the giants kneel before him. Roderick also orders the leader of the giants to bow before him. And it makes it happen. Roderick took the throne with his foot on his head. He says, "I am your king from now on. We will go to earth and enslave everyone." A giant brings the princess and Jack's fellow fighter with him to the kitchen. Jack reaches there because he is close to eating the fighter. Taking out a big knife, Jack attacks him before Vishal kills him. And that knife stabs the giant, who dies on the spot. In this way, Jack saves that fighter. Then 3 of them leave the place. They reach a place where they can pass through a tree to the earth. But there is a big sleeping demon. And they could not escape from before him. So Jack and the fighter arrange a wasp hive. And they rescue those wasps by taking them out of his face shield. As a result, that Vishal wakes up and starts fussing. Losing his stability, the monster falls to the earth. The king notices this and warns that the giants now want to come down. He orders his knights to cut down this tree. Because if those demons come on earth, they will destroy everything. And no one will be able to stop this devastation. He suggests to the fighter princess and Jack, "As long as I'm here, go to earth. Because I want to stop Roderick at any cost. He will bring disaster everywhere on earth. And I know his tricks. And that warrior lives there." And Princess and Jack begin to descend through the beanstalk. The king reluctantly allows the tree to be cut. Because he knew that the tree is a danger to the whole world. And it could be a disaster. In contrast, Roderick is gearing up to come down to earth with the giants. The fighter was also hiding there. He attacks the fighter Roderick before the giants land. And he kills her. And there the crown fell from Roderick's head. It is shown on earth that the knights had cut down that tree. And that tree keeps on falling. That fighter is falling down with that tree. In addition, Princess and Jack also end up falling along with the tree. But the 3 of them survive, and the leader of the giants gets the crown, and he keeps it at his fingertips. And all the giants consider him their king. But they could not go to the earth due to the cutting of trees. They found a small bag there which contained the same beans. These were the same magic beans. The king demon throws those beans into the water. And big trees start growing there. Those demons direct those trees towards the earth and get ready to move on. King finds his daughter and feels elated, satisfying Jack. But he was unaware that Jack and the princess had started liking each other. Being a common man, Jack leaves the princess saying farewell. On his way to his house, Jack saw the trees making their way back to the earth. He thinks it's because of the beans that Roderick snatched. Now those giants want to come to earth. Riding on a horse, he proceeds to tell the king that life is in danger for all. Jack goes to the princess and the king. He says that the giants have come. Meanwhile, the demons had surrounded that place. They were beginning to conquer the disaster. King and Jack gallop through the castle to save their lives. Because they could have saved them from reaching there, otherwise they could fall prey to giants. because they belong to the dynasty of the king from where the story started. And the giants will never let go of this family, because that king had sent them back wearing the crown. They all get into the castle before the giants do any damage. But Jack is left behind. He orders to take back the beanstalk through which they came here. But Jack comes up just before going up. The giant's head grabs the beanstalk. He orders the fighter to shoot arrows continuously. And they make it happen. And the leader of the giants falls overboard. The fire was burning so she could not get up from that place. So he goes into the water and starts looking for another way. The door was being closed, but the demons were pulling the door towards them with the help of ropes, while the king's knights are pulling the door towards them. And those demons throw those burning trees in the palace. A giant aims it and throws it on the wall of the palace. And the wall of the palace has been broken. The king is disappointed to see that it is difficult to stop them. The king asks the princess to go to a room. There is a secret way. This will take you to a place where you will find a fire torch. You can light the torch of that fire to alert people that we are in trouble. Jack and the princess set off on their assigned task. As they move towards the torch of fire in the palace, the earth begins to explode. Because that fallen leader of the demons who had fallen in the water was coming out, tearing the ground. Coming out, he attacks and captures both of them. Jack takes out the last magic bean when the giant is about to eat it. He was kept safe. But Jack threw it in his stomach. Giant feels strange as bean enters his body and leaves both of them. And those trees start growing in his stomach. As a result, its body is separated. And with the magic crown, his severed hand falls to Jack. On the contrary, all the demons had entered the palace. And the king and all the mighty were standing before him. And they were facing death. Immediately, all the veterans knelt down. And they become thoughtful about what happened. Looking back, they see Jack, who was standing holding the crown. And he puts that crown on his head. And he orders all the giants, go back to your kingdom. All the trees are cut down because all the giants are gone. Later, Jack and the princess get married. They also had 2 children who are being told by Jack about the tales of the monsters, as he has been listening since childhood. Children ask, "Where is that crown?" Jack explains, that crown is still safe because it has been made wonderful. It has been put up for display. People come from far-flung areas to see its sight. And its truth has not been revealed yet.